Hey, and welcome to my second devlog for Open Sourcerer. So, since the first devlog, I've been hard at work adding some new levels and assets. You can see I've got an enemy that's capable of jumping around now, and has a nice animated cast and sword swing. I've found some wonderful level assets on itch.io. If you're interested, look for the Pixel Fantasy Art Pack. And I've commissioned a few others, like this robot. Let's go ahead and jump through a second level. So one of the things I've added since last time is environmental hazards. So here's some spikes. I've added hidden areas. Those are probably going to be demarcated by destructible terrain, but for now we've just got those. Got some nice jump through platforms. Oh, looks like I died. Added some death music. Looks like I've loaded from save here. Rather than going through this whole level, I'll just quickly demo this wonderful enemy which walks around curves. It was kind of a fun problem to solve because although these levels are built in a tile editor, they're actually composed into polygonal geometry for running the game. So this is a wall crawler that relies entirely on the physics engine and looking at the local polygons with some ray casting to figure out where to go. And let's jump over to our next room here. We have a boss. So I've set up environmental triggers. This boss triggers when you move a little bit more to the right. And you can see he's gonna run and swing at me. I can go ahead and cast some fire at him, and that'll put him into his attack mode with magic. So you can see he's got one or two fireballs to throw at you. Let's go ahead and break out a slightly higher caliber spell to deal with him. So I'm going to run first a demo of the player-controlled magic system. This is a spell that, upon creating the fireball, actually copies it to a variable and then moves it around depending on where you're aiming. And this scales nicely too, so I can go ahead and drop this spell once I have a little more space. And what it's doing now is it's actually creating a bunch of fireballs to match a... Oh, I died again. Let's go ahead and fight him one more time. Start off with this spell. So what we're doing is we're creating an array of fireballs based on predefined locations, and I'm going to go ahead and take him out with this time. There we go, nice satisfying boss death. So this spell, as I was saying, is an example of what you can do with the creative magic system. We can go ahead and load it to see how it's put together. And what we've got is we've got a function for tracking the fireballs to the current cursor position. We've got a grid of fireballs we want to create, and we've got a click handler, which is actually just going through that grid, spawning the fireballs one by one, and moving them to a given location. The fireballs can be controlled with move to now, so you don't just have to fire and forget. You can actually get some nice control over them. Finally, I just want to talk about a little bit about how this game is put together. This game is based entirely in TypeScript. It's written in a combination of React, 3JS, and P2JS. So here's some of the code that makes it work. Here you can see the code that goes into the spell system. We actually have a pretty complex relationship with a library called JS Interpreter, creating a combination of hooks and callbacks that allow us to run this JavaScript embedded in JavaScript. And the final result, this wonderful ability to create new kinds of scripts, is what we're trying to offer the player. And the last thing I want to showcase is the game's new documentation system. So in order to teach people JavaScript, I have a nice sort of JavaScript tutorial series. This is not a full textbook. It's meant to be approachable and useful in-game. And I'm also starting to put together the API documentation for spells like fire. So you can scroll through it, you can hit try in code editor, and it will copy whatever is in the demo to the code editor. In this case, if we were to run this, let's bump up the speed a little bit. We get a nice Firestorm. And we can actually set the speed to whatever we want to set it to. So here's running at speed 100. You can see it's only doing about one line per 10 milliseconds. And that's getting a much slower than useful effect, but the player can kind of see how the code is executing line by line. Here's running at 1 tick per second. You can see it's just crawling, but it's very good for sort of figuring out what's happening at a given time in your spell. So the other thing I've added since last time is an inventory system. You can assign spells to whatever hotkey you want. So we've assigned this laser demo spell to 7. If I hit 7 now, we can see some lasers. Those are a little too OP to use in game right now, but it's a good demo of the ray tracing code I've been writing. Back to the inventory, you can see we've got stackable items. If you click into an item, you can see what that item is. And yeah. Finally, if you think this game looks interesting and you want to try it, you can actually hit up a live version at brownstein.github.io/opensorcererts. Thanks for watching.